two, three.
When you think of war, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Carnage? Blood? Maybe the cool action movies you see portrayed to your media flashes into your mind? No? Okay. Maybe you're thinking of the fire caused by the flames and bombs thrown from thousands of meters in the air. Did I correctly guess any of these? No? Oh, okay. Maybe you're not thinking of any of these. Maybe you're thinking of the dip, the deflation in the world economy caused by the strife between these two parties colluding in this esoteric dance of fire and blood. Maybe you're thinking of the damaged property you'll never get back from the rummages of destruction left behind as it passes through like a tsunami of wailing and bullets. Or maybe, just maybe, you're thinking of the cries of the masses caught between such skirmishes, the blood that flows from the weeping, the loss suffered by those who have to carry such bodies on their backs, like a monument of distraught, ever darkening the hearts of those unfortunate to be present for such a blasphemous occasion. Combined with the loss, regret, and depression, all these would be absolutely terrible, no matter where it's found, right? You're right. Unless your answer was yes, then unfortunately you're wrong. Does everything I've said sound like the words of a liar, or are there some truths in that? Since we started this video, I've been talking of war and its entourage, and I think the anime that managed to perfectly encapsulate such a feeling was none other than Violet Evergarden. Originally, I started watching this anime a few years ago, but I didn't understand what it was trying to say. Like a mime trying to tell you he's burning alive. Just freaking wild gesticulations and entertaining visuals attracted me, but I didn't know what it was about. Like, what are you trying to say? Speak words. Why would the author pick a story full of grief and sadness to be told through the view of a character that supposedly has no emotions? Or no way to express them, should I say. I ask you, the viewer, how would you tell a story of loss other than through the eyes of someone who doesn't know what they had to begin with, or when she lost it, for a matter of fact? So, my whole reason for making this video is talking about the upper and lower tones of Violet Evergarden. When you watch this anime, what stood out to you the most? The whole show is basically a story of self-discovery, which is something that is prevalent in every episode. And when it's not talking about that, it's tackling something deeper, like war, love, loss. Okay, let's put things into perspective a little bit. What is love? The answer would seem obvious to you. Is it not that warm, bubbly feeling you get in your gut when you're thinking about a certain special someone? Perhaps it's not as clear-cut as that, actually. That kind of love isn't the same thing we feel towards someone like our parents or our siblings and friends. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong. Maybe love needn't even contain emotion or a feeling of affection. Maybe it's also represented in the simple care we exhibit for our community and or country rather than an individual. For a word that has such a deep, nuanced meaning, how could one go about explaining such a concept to someone who had never experienced it? Very much reminiscent of trying to explain color to a blind person. Possible in theory, but another issue to be done actually. Kyoto Animation brings us the story of a young, nigh emotionless teen girl soldier as she tries to find the meaning of love as her fatherly figure, Major Gilbert Bougainvillea, showed her in contrast to the environment which she lived and grew up in. Her life as an orphan, raised to be a weapon to the military, she was nothing other than a tool to be used for conquest. But upon being given to this kind-hearted major by his equally cold-hearted brother, she begins to experience the feeling of being valued, loved, and cared for. However, having grown up in an environment of bloodshed and violence, such feelings were alien to her. She knew nothing than living to receive orders. Without orders, what meaning does her life have? She was, for all intents and purposes, a tool without a heart. In the last battle that brings an end to the war, Major Gilbert becomes fatally wounded, and with no way of saving him, he gives her these final words.
愛してる
Following the grisly battle, she wakes up in an infirmary, and we follow the story as she starts to live her life in an attempt to understand the previous feelings that were alien to her, such as love. She becomes an auto memory doll, which is just a fancy way of saying a ghostwriter that this show adopted for some reason. How would someone alien to the feelings of love be able to express that to others with text? Short answer, she couldn't. She writes straight to the point and is bluntly factual more than anything, lacking any form of tact or emotion. In her first letter, written for a woman who wishes to express her emotions for a man who asks her out, Violet writes down what she says word for word as she just rants about being important. Even if that's not really what she wanted to say, she just wrote what she said, which is something that auto memory dolls are not supposed to do apparently. Violet succeeds in driving a man away than drawing him closer. This changes as she befriends a girl named Luculia Marlborough. Luculia struggles to tell her brother just how much he means to her after having tragically lost their parents during the war. The friendship Violet forms with Luculia after Violet writes her a letter for her brother. What she wrote is something primitively simple but utterly heartfelt. It turned out to be enough to move her brother to tears, and through that, they had this sort of bond of friendship, I guess. Violet can be summed up as an astoundingly beautiful tale of love, loss, and regret, and the understanding on how to accept that and move on. Love is maybe what some would say as emotion that brings life. It comes in many different forms, but when any of it is lost, it creates this chasm that appears impossible to cross. Heartbreak, death are tragic truths in the course of life. And in this case, it is simply because of that loss, that heartbreak, that loneliness, that she is able to begin her journey and discovery. And we find truly what tugs on the heartstrings. Through her experience, she's able to become more human, hosting more emotions than a person would when told of the death of a loved one. She starts to grasp the consequences of her actions during the time she spent in the military. And like her, we too start to feel the pain as we can empathize with the situation. But through the letters she writes, she inadvertently heals the scars created by the lives she's ruined. Final thoughts. Violet Evergarden is flawed. Its wide cast and storytelling is jumpy and rushed at times. It will give us one episode to introduce a character and explain his or her backstory and promptly say goodbye to them, never to be seen again. But because of the director, I feel, such a thing is not an inconvenience, but they are told to the point where it's okay if we don't find out what they're up to. They're out there and doing their own thing, and that's fine. These characters managed to pack a torrent of emotion in just the 13 or 14 episodes than some anime have in 25. And that says something, complemented by the scene reminiscent of the Victorian era, but with little elements of sci-fi or steampunk, give it a new kind of form. The soundtrack was very well selected and accentuates the atmosphere of the era as well. Flutes, strings, piano, and what I felt was cello and a trumpet. Quite knowledgeable instruments, as you can see. All these are astutely done by someone named Evan Cole, if you know who that is, because I don't. No disrespect. He did a wonderful job. Finally, the animation and colors were absolutely S tier. Some of the best work done by KyoAni. They went above the bar for this one. I found myself just mindlessly staring at the landscapes when I was watching this. The intricate details, the lighting are something pulled from a Renaissance painting. Their eyes told a story just by themselves, like gems under the noon sky. Very beautiful. And don't even get me started on the water. Damn, how do you draw water like that? The bright and vivid colors tell a completely different story than the one we're actually experiencing, however. And I love the studio's choice on that. Instead of using dark colors just because it's somewhat a sad type of anime, they made it even flashier. I found that a lot of people who disliked the anime had one thing in common though. They liked all the rest, but they had just one thing, and their belief is that this anime was way too unrealistic. Like, bruh, what the hell? If you're looking for realistic, watch the live adaptation, but you didn't want to. So we move on. Get over it. You're watching a goddamn anime. The fight scenes, although not the main draw of the anime, doesn't fall far behind. The action is flowy and nicely animated. All in all, this anime was actually very good. What? Should I give it a rank? Are we going to do a ranking system, boys? Fine. Art, 8 over 10. Animation, 8 over 10. Music. Ooh, I mean, bruh really knows how to tug on your strings. 9 over 10. Story, I mean, 10. 10s, 10s. Anyway, all that just culminates into a total score of 8.5 over 10. Not sure what these numbers would do for you, but here you go. Go show your friends or something. Now, for a little information, if you made it this far in the video, Violet Evergarden has a movie, and if you haven't watched it, like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you watching this before you watch that? Like, bruh. After watching said movie, I'll just tell you can expect an episode 10, but with heavyweight steroids, like fucking juiced out of his mind. I suggest you watch it, damn it.